You know, I was doing my little walk and I realized there's something that I have to talk about when it comes to panic disorder, coping with panic disorder. You know, I like to talk a lot about curing your panic disorder. You know, I had a panic disorder and I managed to cure it. But you know, it's not a straightforward journey. You know, it's not like you're gonna, I mean, there hopefully will come a day where you'll just be like, something will click in and you cure your panic disorder. That's what happened. That's kind of what happened for me. Not exactly like that, but sort of like that. Where one day I realized how to do the whole surrender thing, the acceptance thing. And once I realized that, I could tell that, wow, I just have to repeat this until panic doesn't exist anymore. But, you know, before I got there, it was like, it took, what, like 3 years? I think it was like 3 years of suffering with this damn bullshit, pardon my language. It was a long time. It was like between, I think, 2008-ish and like 2011-ish. Sorry, yeah, that's right. 2008-ish, 8-ish to 11-ish. About, more or less. I don't exactly remember. It's been over a decade ago, right? But, you know, so you had to cope with this. I had to find some way of surviving with this while dealing with this crap on a daily basis. I don't think there was a day where I had a break from having panic attacks. So, you know, this is something that I didn't do, but in retrospect, I wish I had. I wish I had done this in retrospect. Because, well, you know, you get older, you know better. Especially having the privilege of knowing what it feels like to be in the midst of a panic attack. What it felt like on a daily basis between panic attacks, right? Even in between panic attacks, it has a feel to it. Like, yeah, panic attack feels full blown, it's intense, but then in between the panic attacks, there's like that, sometimes a haze. I like to call it sometimes like a mini panic attack. Like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? It's awful. It's an awful feeling. Anyways, I'm taking forever to get to the point. Sorry about that. I have a bad habit. I noticed that I do that in my videos. But hold on, I got sweat in my eyes. Okay, so here's something. Maybe I should turn around. Should I turn around? Yeah, maybe I should turn around. Here's something that I noticed later on, and this is, I think I've talked about this in some of my other videos. God, I'm taking forever to get to the point, aren't I? So if you got panic attacks, if you got panic disorder, I know that exercise, getting your heart rate up, if you got to run or something like that, I know that that can set off your panic attacks. However, exercise is also gonna process all of that hormonal storm that's happening inside of you. You know, what you gotta respect about panic disorder is the fact that the level of stress that you undergo, I mean, not that I've ever lived through a war, but I gotta be honest, I think a war is slightly more relaxing than having to endure a panic attack. Or no, not the panic attack. Than having to endure ongoing panic attacks every single fucking day. Because that's, I'm sorry about my language. Because that's like, look, in a war, I mean, sure, there's people who are stuck in a war zone, active war zone, for days at a time, maybe weeks at a time even, right? It's like a siege situation. But I'm imagining that, you know, during war zone, there's times of ceasefire and there's times of fighting, right? You're not always engaging. With panic attacks, dude, like it's every day. It's every day. You're. It's like you're under fire. You think you're about to die every single day. It's so the level of fear, the level of all that fear juice, right? So norepinephrine, epinephrine, all that stuff, all these hormones, they're cortisol. They're jacked up through the roof. Man, there's a persistent mosquito that's just stalking me. Son of a... We evolved to, when we get stressed out, right? We didn't evolve to, you know, point mouse. We didn't evolve to click with a mouse and type on keyboards and pay bills. We didn't evolve to do that. We evolved to run, to hunt, to throw spears, things like that. We evolved that when we get scared, when we get nervous, when we're afraid, we fight or run. That's what we do. We did what I'm doing right now. We're breaking a sweat. That's how our bodies know how to complete these cycles. Every time there's a stress response, you got to complete the cycle. I feel kind of nervous walking on the train tracks. I know this is an active train track. So, I think Amtrak or NG Transit goes here. So what I'm gonna suggest to you is that work with your body. Work with your body. Don't work against it. I'm gonna make a bet that a lot of you, not all of you, but probably, I'm gonna say most of you, when you're dealing with panic disorder, you're probably doing what I did, which is you kind of lock yourself in. You don't go anywhere. You don't exercise because you're afraid that something's gonna set it off. You don't know what's gonna set it off. You don't know what's gonna set off your panic attacks. But just in case, you'd rather kind of stay put, right? So instead of running, instead of doing what your body actually expects you to do, which is fight or run, right? Which is gonna break a sweat either way. You're just sitting still, right? And that's a problem because you're just cooking. You're just cooking in those chemicals. So when I was walking today, and I was a little bit stressed out this morning, so I'm walking and I'm starting to break a sweat, and I'm feeling all that tension ease, and I'm remembering, well, I haven't made a video on panic disorder in a while. I'm like, wait a minute, if I had done this on a regular basis back when I was going through it, not that this would have cured it. I'm not trying to say that this is gonna fix everything, but this would have taken the edge off, man. This would have taken the edge off because just give it a try. Give it a try. Break a sweat. Now, I know that exercise can push you into a panic, which I made a video on how you can actually use exercise to do some form of interoceptive exposure. So I'm not saying you have to do an intense workout. What I am saying is make it as intense as you feel comfortable and go for time rather than intensity, okay? And see how you feel. See how you feel. Take some time out of your day and do this. I will be surprised if you do this consistently. So let me tell you something. In my experience, so I've done a whole lot of research on exercise and how it affects mental health. And by the way, it's as effective as therapy and medication. That's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? So you're doing yourself a disservice by not moving. I wish that I had done this, back when I was going through it, back when I was dealing with panic attacks on a regular basis. Now, the pace that I'm moving at right now, personally, I would increase the pace. I don't feel like this pace that I'm moving at right now is enough to burn off all that adrenaline unless I was gonna do that all day. So I want to encourage you to increase the intensity of whatever you're doing. As high as you feel comfortable. I don't want you setting off your panic attacks because that's not the point of this. The point of this is to kind of bring you back to baseline. And you can feel so much better. Now, you have to be patient with this. Don't just go walking once. Although you might feel a lot better after walking once, except that what is probably gonna, if your experience is anything like mine, what's probably going to happen is after that one intense walk, you might feel better, but then it's gonna constrict once again. So you have to do this regularly, and eventually you're gonna see that things are easing up for you. And if you want, I can tell you a little bit more about the studies that were done on exercise. For the treatment of depression, it's as effective as therapy and medication. Not combined, though. Am I hearing the train? No. Not combined, though. Because medication and therapy is synergistic. However, there is some evidence also, more studies have to be done. There's some evidence also that exercise and therapy are also synergistic because the mechanism by which exercise and medication help people is very similar. So there's something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and that's I think it's a hormone, if I'm not mistaken, and is responsible for learning. And researchers found that people who are depressed are low on that thing. And what does the medication do? Medication increases the BDNF, and exercise also does the same thing. So they're thinking that that's pretty much the same mechanism except no side effects, and you're healthier. But the downside is that it takes effort, right? How much effort does popping a pill take? Nothing. You just pop it and you're done. But exercise, it takes effort, right? It takes effort, it takes time, but it's an investment worth exploring because some other studies suggest that for every minute you spend exercising, your life is extended by 7 minutes. Now, obviously, there's a limit to that. I forget what the limit is. Another reason why researchers are so excited about exercise is because chronic stress which is essentially what you're going through when you have a panic disorder, it messes up your nervous system and your endocrine system. So what can happen is that if you're chronically stressed, you can it ends up being a self-feeding cycle. You end up much more constricted on a permanent basis, even when you don't have to, even when the stressors are gone. And they found that exercise, well, this is a theoretical thing. They're theorizing that what exercise does, because they noticed that in studies that people who are chronically stressed, they go back to baseline when they exercise on a regular basis. And they theorize that that's exactly what exercise does. It forces the body to go through its normal tension relaxation cycle, and that causes you to calm down. It causes you to reset your nervous system. So I think that's enough for this spiel. I hope you got something out of this. I will see you in the next video.